Okay, so if you saw my previous video, we were talking about matrix rules in Shadowrun 5th and how it's a little simplified in my homebrew, where in order for you to do an action on some sort of device, you just need to hack it by getting either 1 mark or 2 marks on it. And marks dictate what kind of actions that you can do to that device. This video, we're going to go over matrix actions that you can do, because there's a buttload of matrix actions that you can do. Before we get into it, I'd like to recommend to a lot of newcomers to Shadowrun that just talk to your GM whenever you have an idea of something that you want to do, because chances are it's possible and you can do it, and your GM will give you the best advice about how you are to achieve that thing. Matrix actions in Shadowrun, I feel like, are overlisted in a certain way, where they just decided to list out as many possible actions that they thought players could do, but there's so many more things that you can do in Shadowrun 5th, and there's creative ways that you can use these actions that I don't think the authors necessarily intended for you to be able to do, but it makes sense for a lot of GMs. So just some food for thought, that these actions aren't necessarily the only ones that you can do. If you can brainstorm something, talk to your GM, and you can probably figure out how you want to attain the thing that you want to do. Okay, so with all that said, let's look at this big, scary cheat sheet that I'll link in the description here of all the matrix actions that you can do. It's 1 page here. So first we're going to go over the ones that, in my opinion, are very useful and the ones that you'll use the most. And then we'll go over some more niche actions that you may end up using from time to time. And don't worry about these skill tests that are here. That's what the cheat sheet is for. The only thing that you should really try to absorb in this video is what these actions do and what's useful. Determined by me, the arbiter of all things Shadowrun. Okay, so first we're going to go over 2 actions, actually, at once. Where is it? Right, so we have to start with the 2 actions that get you marks, because that's how you open up your actions, is you need to get marks on device before you can do anything. So there's something called brute force, and then there is something called hack on the fly. There we go, hack on the fly. More often than not, you'll probably end up using hack on the fly because it's the quieter version of brute force. But if you're just trying to fuck some shit up, brute force is a good way to get marks on device while dealing damage to that device. Hack on the fly is quieter, and if you're successful, then people won't know that you hacked their device, and you get more information about that device. That's basically all you really need to know at a surface level of those 2 actions. They're the things that you open up with, generally speaking. Let's see here. Some other matrix actions that you'll find really useful, I think, at least in my experience. Matrix perception is very handy. I have a lot of players that love matrix perception. It's where you just walk into a room and then you do your Batman pulse vision. You throw out your nerd radar everywhere, and you can ping a whole bunch of different wireless devices that are connected to the matrix. If you're looking for hidden icons that are on, but they are in like a stealth mode, so they don't really get strong wireless bonuses, but they still exist, you can look for hidden devices if you so wish. Like, if you had a wireless gun, you'd probably have it hidden, more likely than not. You wouldn't want to broadcast out to the world that you have a gun on you. Matrix perception is also useful for a bunch of other things, but we won't get too into it. Big thing to know about matrix perception is that you can't see through walls. It's not a Superman X-ray vision. It's just something that you use to ping things in the area that are nearby to you. Next, matrix search is another very helpful matrix action. It's just Googling stuff. But with information being so valuable in Shadowrun, matrix search is awesome. It's really good. You can search for things such as just like maps, directions to get to a place, like Yelp reviews of a location if it's like really sketchy or not. You could potentially do some sleuthing and find out rumors about a contact that you need to meet or a target that you need to take down. Matrix search is really helpful. I love this action. It's spoof command. Spoof command is really good because it just requires one mark, and you can do a lot of different things with it. You just send a command to a device that you have a mark on, and you tell it to do a thing. Like you spoof command to the camera, turn off your feed, and it'll be like, okay, you're my owner because I think you are, I'll do it, and then it turns itself off. Or you spoof command a taser to fire off, and it goes, okay, and then it fires off inside that guy's pocket, and now he's knocked out. The note about spoof command is that because you're sending a action to a device, if that device deems that action as dangerous, it may not do it if it has like safety protocols in it. So like if you spoof commanded a car to crash into a wall, it would be like, no, that's bad. I have all these like AI protocols within me to not crash into walls. That's because who would fucking do that? Now, if you want to crash a car into a wall, I got the matrix action for you, and it is called control device. Ooh, it's a bad pen. Excuse me. I gotta fix this. Control device. There we go. So control device is similar in concept to spoof command, but you don't send commands to this device. Instead, you do it yourself. You actually use your own skills to do so. So let's say you used control device on a car to crash into a wall, you would roll your pilot groundcraft skill in order to do so. Thankfully, it's tied to your logic because you're a smart matrix decker, so you're not totally out of luck. Don't think that you're totally screwed because you're not a rigger, so you can't drive anything. You have a chance. And you'll also notice how over here with control device it says the marks you need varies. Basically, the more complicated the action, the more marks you need in order to do so. Consult with your GM. Data spike is a good ol' I'm going to fuck up some shit. Data spike, you just have a bunch of corrupted code and you go yuck and you throw it at a device and then you overload it and it will eventually crash. You cause matrix damage to it. It's a very angry matrix action. Edit file. Edit file is fantastic. Edit file is what you use to edit a file that you find. And it's not so mundane as I open up someone's PDF and I change his signature to me. It could be something like I change what that projector is broadcasting to instead like a news report from last night deframing the club owner in here. Or you can edit a file of an alarm so that it believes that the protocols are safe and it disables itself. There's multiple ways to do that. I'm sure you may have just thought, well, why don't I just spoof command it? You can do that too. They're both valid. You can reboot device. Requires 3 marks, however, but rebooting a device is a good way to like get a drone like the fuck out of combat, because it takes a turn or two for it to boot itself back up. So if you just were able to get the maximum amount of marks that you need on device, you can just reboot it and say, cool, like, don't need to worry about that thing anymore for a while. If you play at my table, you may wonder why this is 3 marks instead of 2, which is the maximum. If you notice this column here, there's a trend where you either need 0 marks, 1 mark, or 3 marks. There's very few things that need only 2 marks. So I just say fuck 3, make it 2. So if you see anything here that says 3 marks, just imagine that's 2 at my table anyway. That's about it. A couple of things that you may not use so often, but it's good for you to know about these actions are check Overwatch score. Check Overwatch score is very handy. It does not tell you what your Overwatch SR is and why you're stuck in bronze. Instead, Overwatch score, it's a whole other system in Shadowrun that basically lets you check to see if the Matrix police are keeping track of you. Whenever you do an illegal action in Shadowrun and in the Matrix police grid Overwatch division will start to keep tabs on you, and if you get to a certain level, they will jack you out of the Matrix forcibly and call the physical cops on you. So you want to check your Overwatch score every now and then to see how you're doing. If you're worried about your Overwatch score being really high, you can just reboot your cyber deck and it'll reset your score and you're fine. It's a whole other system, don't worry too much about it. If your GM's not a dick, he'll go over it with you before it's a big issue. And a whole bunch of other things in here are like really minor. The only other thing that I would really want to call out to you is disarm data bomb is helpful when you'll know when you want to use it, but you want to understand that files in the Matrix can be protected, and not just through encryption, but also through digital bombs. So whenever you find a file and you want to access it and open it, consider doing a Matrix perception test on it to see if there is a data bomb on it, and if there is, then you disarm it using this action. Anyway, that's about it. Hope that was helpful. Again, a lot of this varies from table to table about what's useful, what's not. I mind these are the ones that I think a lot of my players end up using, and you can use them in very creative ways versus a lot of these other very niche actions. So if you see this cheat sheet, don't be intimidated by the like 20 or 30 actions that are listed here, because you really are only going to end up using like a third of them. Maybe only 10, maybe only 5. So don't worry about it too much. The Matrix is a lot simpler than it sets itself out to be.